Welcome. You are listening to I Have Questions with Michael Ruland.
Have you ever asked a question, been in a classroom, been curious, or ever wanted to teach and learn? Then you're in the right place. Because I have questions. I am very passionate about being curious, about being educated, and most importantly, about having questions. Join me on this journey as I share stories, talk to some fun and inspiring people, gain insights to being a better teacher, better student, and maybe even a better human. I am very passionate about being curious, about being educated, and most importantly, about having questions. I hope you're ready because
I have questions.
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 I pity the fool that doesn't have questions, which I do.
I have questions.
Welcome. Emily, you want to say welcome?
Hello, welcome.
Welcome. Emily is going to be my co-host. I'm so glad you're joining me on our first duo tag team operation here, people. This is, I think, something I'm going to do periodically from here on out because I might as well have Emily do the work instead of me. They're much better at working than I am. So I'm glad you're joining us. I'm glad I'm joining us, actually. I thought today we would bring Emily on board because, all of you guys need somebody with some brains and some smarts. So here Emily is. Em, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. You have more brains than you give yourself credit for.
Yeah, my head is big. You're right.
Nice. From
Nice.
somewhere.
Yeah, your mom. Cool. All right. Well, how's the weather there?
It's finally warming up. It's been pretty awful, but I can see the ground, which is exciting. And
That's a huge step up
Yeah.
from a couple weeks ago.
yeah, I think I sent you pictures of the icicles are massive, and I got really lucky. A bunch of people had to dig out their cars, but my landlord had to dig out a spot for their truck, and then they're like, "You can just have this spot." So
Ah,
yeah,
well, that works.
yeah, it was nice.
Nice. Well, so if everybody knows, Em lives in Pittsburgh. That would be Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on the East Coast. She found a place that was just far enough away that I can't go bother them very often. Well, actually, I don't go there at all because
Yeah, you
it's a
never
long ways
visited.
away. That's not true.
Okay,
I
yeah,
helped move in.
you did. I forgot about that when we first
Yeah.
moved here.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. We got there when you got there. So,
Yeah, they worked.
but that was it.
My
was
dad
enough.
and mom worked the entire time. You guys didn't even get to see Pittsburgh, really.
We went for Greek food.
Yeah, that's true.
Remember that guy?
Yeah, there's a lot of really good Greek food here. There's actually a Greek food festival at the local church right by the campus.
Yeah,
University.
I did enjoy Pittsburgh because the East Coast is this way, right? It does have its actual ethnic areas and ethnic food. And just a quick story. That time we were out there, remember we went to that Greek restaurant and they had this thing called Greek pizza. Remember that?
Yes.
And I'm like, what the heck is Greek pizza? So I ordered it. And the guy who was the owner gave me a ration of shit. He's like, if you want a pizza, go to the Italian restaurant. I'm like, wait a second. You have Greek pizza. That's why I ordered it.
But you didn't get it.
But I didn't get it. I finally had to say, you know what? You cook for me what you want. And he did. And he became my best friend.
Yeah, he's great. He unfortunately doesn't work there. Like that place doesn't exist anymore, which is sad.
Darn him. That's because he wasn't selling his Greek pizza.
Maybe. Well, that's something interesting about Pittsburgh. Maybe, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's an East Coast thing, but as you know, I've lived with you in the West Coast. I've lived in the Midwest and now the East Coast. And well, Pittsburgh is it the East Coast? It's complicated. Depends on who you ask. But the the restaurants here are weird because you'll go to a pizza place, particularly pizza places, and you'll go to a pizza place and there's sushi on the menu, there's gyros, there's, I don't know, every food you can think about, but you don't want to order it necessarily.
Stick with the pizza.
Yeah. Well, even the pizza,
Got
I'm
it.
like, oh, I don't know about the pizza.
It's like going to a Mexican restaurant out here and they serve a hamburger. I'm like,
Yeah.
why would you go to the Mexican restaurant and order a hamburger, people?
Well,
Come on,
people do.
use your heads.
Yeah. It's like
I
the
know.
have you seen the SNL episode with the John Mulaney like lobster one?
No,
They go to the
SNL is too late at night.
well, I don't ever watch it on the same time.
I know
I
your
watch it
mom
on
doesn't
YouTube.
either, but
But John Mulaney, uh, I can't remember. I think it's Pete Davidson, but Pete Davidson orders the lobster, and everyone's like, and they go crazy, and he's like, oh, and they're like, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Why would you put lobster on here if you don't want me to have it? I want it." And it's like this like old nasty lobster. But yeah, I kind of feel like that's what this is. It's like everywhere we go.
yes, that's exactly right. They have it there just to have it there.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sure this is riveting for everybody.
Everything we say is riveting.
That's true. So, what are we talking about today, Em?
Well, I think we're talking about one of my favorite things to do when I teach, which is projects and how to get students to bring their own interests into student projects.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, I
right.
love that. I think, you know, one of the things that I have found in my career is, um, people who don't know, right? And I wouldn't expect them to know, but I've had people say, "Oh, you're doing a project in class? Well, that must be easier."
Yeah,
Right? Exactly,
it
right?
is.
And I'm like, no, actually, I think when I set up a project for my kids, it's twice as hard
Yeah, yeah.
because you're trying to make it worthwhile, right? And so anyway, so do you have a project? You brought it up,
I
so I'm
did.
gonna make you
Yeah,
start.
for those people listening in, literally, he said, "Hey, you have a student project or a student, you have a topic you want to talk about?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay, cool." And then I was like, "Oh, okay." So we got here though. But yeah, I actually, yeah, I have a lot of projects that I've done. I think we talked about this a little bit before when I was your first ever guest, but I learned how to kind of teach when I was a master's student at North Dakota State University. And I don't know if you remember, Dad, but we had like a week-long class before, well, it was a whole semester class, but it started a week before the school started. And we
Yeah,
learned how to teach, basically.
yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah,
And the only reason I remember is because when you went to Pitt,
they didn't.
they just said, "Here you go. Good luck."
Well, um, yeah, I mean, thankfully, I knew what I was doing. But yeah, no, that's true. It was interesting. We had a class. It was just, it was much different.
Yes.
Uh,
Back to the bison world.
yeah, yeah. So at NDSU, one of the things that I thought was really cool is our class that first semester we all just made the same syllabus. And the project at the end was like a cumulative project, and it was a TBD project for the syllabus. Like students didn't really get to know what the class project was, which is, pretty, it's not that uncommon in a university setting, at least. But also when you're teaching in a high school or a middle school, it's not like you're telling them everything that's happening in the next 5 minutes. But anyways, so it was this TBD thing, and the reason is because one of our assignments for this class was to build a cumulative project together as a class, as a cohort. I think there were 11 of us maybe. And I was talking to my partner about this, to Selena. She was like, telling me, she was like, I think you're the one who came up with the superhero idea. I hadn't remembered that, but I did. I guess I was the one who was like, oh, well, what if we did superheroes? Everyone likes superheroes, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I think what was really cool about that project is that, we're here to talk about students. And even in that moment as a teacher, I was being a student and we got to build this class project together. So that was really, it's kind of like a fun, like double duty kind of conversation,
Yeah.
right? So that's really cool. But anyway, so the superhero project has always been one of my favorite things to look back on because with this project, we got to do a group project, which is even harder than individual projects, I think. Um,
Yes.
and we got to have our students think about genre. And so North Dakota State University, I think I said this again earlier in our last podcast, but was a genre-based writing class. And so for our initial classes. And so what that means is that we focused a lot on rhetoric, so ethos, logos, and pathos, how to convince someone, how to persuade someone, how to argue, right? Yeah.
Were those guys Greek warriors, ethos and logos and
They could have been.
pathos?
My two of my cohort members and I actually we all dressed up as ethos, pathos, and logos
Oh,
for
so
Halloween.
okay. Wow.
Yeah. It was
Hey, in
very
case anybody's curious right now, by the way, Emily, they are kind of weird and nerdy.
Can you guess which one I dressed up as? Based on my
Zeus.
personality?
I don't even know what those words mean.
Well, let you in on it. Let me give you a
Thank
little
you.
lesson. So, ethos, pathos, and logos are basically just the things that you might not know what those words are, but you're
Oh,
using them every day.
logos.
Logos.
Logos, not Legos.
Logos.
Oh,
LOGOS. But not
got it.
logos like that Kraken logo.
Gotcha.
Not
All
that.
right, go. I won't interrupt.
It wouldn't be a conversation with you if you didn't interrupt. No, so okay, so ethos, pathos, and logos are the things that we do every day when we're talking to people. So I'm telling you right now about this superhero project, and there's a couple things that I'm doing to make this story interesting to people, right? So when you're talking, you're using all of these ideas, these elements, right? So ethos is this idea of you're trying to get authority, either from yourself or from others. And so there's a couple things that I'm doing here. One, when you introduced me in the last guest thing, you gave all of my titles. You said, here's all the cool things that Emily does. That's ethos that you're kind of enacting to say, here's why you're bringing this person on. Even now, when you introduced me, you said, my first guest. That's a form of ethos, right? But
Yep.
there's also ethos where I call to other people. So I'm saying, when I created this superhero project, I had this class that was helping me do this, which informs my audience that I had people who were telling me how to do this, who knew what they were doing, right? So that's ethos. Ethos is something that we do 1,000% of the time. It's emotion. That's what I dressed up as. So pathos is when you are appealing to someone's emotional, instinct. So when I'm telling you about the student projects, I say, oh, everyone likes superheroes, right? And so like that's a way of connecting with your audience. These are all ways of connecting with your audience, right? To tell them what's interesting and relevant and why they should care. And then logos is data driven, appeal to so it's like ethos is appeal to ethics, ethos is appeal to emotion, and logos is appeal to logic, right? And so I say, there were 11 of us in this cohort. So I'm like data building from that. And I'm telling you what ethos, pathos, and logos are, which is in itself a form of logos, right? Because I'm saying, here's this data that I have that tells you why this is important and relevant.
Yep. Yep.
So that makes sense?
Yeah, totally. I would have been logos.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now they're
Anyway.
not warriors, though they could
Oh,
be.
wow.
They're
It
warriors
could
of
be.
words.
Oh my gosh, we just coined something.
Yeah, I'm sure someone else did. I'm sorry.
Dang it. I'm never original.
Yeah. All right. So back to the superheroes. So
Oh, yes.
they,
Right turn.
yeah. So in genre-based writing, one of the things that we really focus on is how you use ethos, pathos, and logos. And so they've written by this point in the class in a bunch of different genres, right? So they've written um an argumentative essay. They've written an opinion, like a commentary essay. They've written a report. They've done all of these little things, right? And so in this final project, we're asking them, and this is something that I always bring into every project I do in a different way, but I really think that multimodal projects are really important because it shows students how even if they're like, well, I don't have to write in my daily life, they're still using these skill sets in different ways, right? And so in this superhero project, they were asked to create a multimodal, which means they were doing multiple mediums. So they had to do at least two different mediums of writing or argumentation for the superhero. So they had to do multiple things. They had to propose a superhero. Students would do everything under the sun, and this is where their own particular interest came in. We had students who would do like, oh, I'm really interested in the environment. So one person had like a seagull superhero that like ate plastic and pooped out like fertilizer for the farmers in North Dakota. um, and so they were working on like microplastics in the ocean. They had one group, this one always just gets me. They had so the it felt like cheating at first until I saw the final project because they just picked the mascot of NDSU,
Yeah.
Thundar, which is a talking, walking bison, or bison if you're anywhere not in the Midwest.
Yep.
And I was like, well, you can't just pick something that already exists. But then they went like the extra mile. They first of all, they 3D printed. They were like, well, we heard there's this 3D printer and that we're allowed to use it. Can we use it to make our superhero? I said, of course. So they got it, and one of their group members painstakingly painted, and like Thundar had this like alternative personality that like like he was Thundar during the day, but at night he was Thundar, like with an extra R or something. It was really dumb. And so they painted his costume on. And so they got really into that part. And I did have to really tell them, like, okay, that's cool. I love it. I'm so excited. But you can't forget that there's like this actual part of the project that you have to then do, like, why does this superhero matter? And so that's kind of the project, was that they had to make their superhero matter to the class, right? And so in that they did a really cool job because so Thundar's superpower was that he fixed the internet at NDSU. And so they already picked a pretty relevant topic to 18-year-olds on
Yeah.
campus. But then they
That's awesome.
also had to talk about how Thundar uses ethos, pathos, and logos to engage with his audience and
Yeah.
to prove that he's the best for fixing the Wi-Fi.
Right. And obviously, the whole purpose of this was to get them bought in,
Yeah. And
and
they really,
and they really did, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I spent my whole career trying to get buy-in into math, high school math, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think
And
that I'm just going to point out that I think that my project ideas here stemmed to some extent from your math art project. Like that
yeah,
that was something that really impacted me, like reminding me that, like your students were so invested in it. And I always am curious about how you did that and made them
yeah.
so invested.
Um, I think they just I think it was because, like, your project, you allowed them to pick. I I let my math students in this art and math project, they had to pick, and they got to pick anything. I left it about as wide open as you humanly could, right? Math and art project was always in May, And students were tasked with a couple things. The project had to be about one of two things, a tessellation or a polyhedron. So tessellations are things that are repetitive, and there's tons of way to look at it. Like a chessboard is a tessellation. The blocks are a tessellation. If you typed in tessellation, you would probably actually see on the computer a picture of birds. Like it's the same exact bird over and over and over and over again, painted different colors. And so it's just a repeating thing. Out of tessellations are also fractals, which, between all of that, you could look at a head of a sunflower, the way the seeds are, make a tessellation in a fractal of sorts. The other thing they could do is a polyhedron, which is a three-dimensional shape. And I really left it at that. So the kids then were tasked with writing a paper on either polyhedrons or tessellations, their choice, and what they are, and then what they might make their project about. Then the second part is they had to do a proposal to make this project. And then the third part was the actual building of their project. And along the way, I had the art teacher at the high school. She actually brought her kids into my classroom and taught my kids some of the basic concepts of art to help them learn color coordination and spacing and all that. And yeah, and as you said, the buy-in was unbelievable. Like, holy crap.
Like that soccer
The
ball.
Yeah, a student, and again, I was teaching kids who did not like math. They were mostly freshmen who absolutely, we were in the lowest math class you could get at our high school, and they did not like it. And so I was reaching for anything to get them bought in. And, one of the kids made a metal soccer ball where every other space was hollow. And then he learned to weld, and he welded this thing together. And um, he said his mom was so proud of it that he had to take care of it because she wanted it for her mantle, right?
So cute.
Um, I had another student who absolutely, I mean, he and I butted heads all the time, but he made for his project this thing called the impossible triangle. And if you look it up online, it's actually down in Perth, Australia. They made a uh, sculpture of it. And what it is it's this sculpture of metal that just goes up and out and down, and it looks like nothing until you stand at this one particular spot, and it makes a perfect triangle. Makes a nice isosceles triangle. But if you look at it from any other spots, it just looks like this mass of metal that makes no sense. And you can actually go look it up online in Perth, Australia. Anyway, he found this. I didn't even know about it at that time in my life. He found this and he built his own, and he used a mirror that he put behind it, and he had to calculate the distance he needed. And and then he had to calculate where you would stand. And if you stood on the spot he put on the floor and looked at the mirror, you would see the triangle in the mirror from his sculpture of this. It was unbelievable. And hundreds, as you remember, hundreds and hundreds of things. I had kids crocheting quilts,
Yeah.
make tessellations, and kids painting and kids baking. Man, I got to eat some really nice stuff.
Yeah.
The kids would they would one boy of Hispanic descent built um a Maya temple
Oh,
out of what did he use? I think Rice Krispie bars. You know how that has the steps in it?
yeah.
Yeah, he made all these Rice Krispie bars and cut them, and then built this unbelievable Mayan temple.
Yeah.
But I think the deal was they bought in, and the biggest question is, well, is that really math? And in my mind, totally. Math isn't just 1 + 1 = 11, right? It's how do you solve problems?
Yeah.
And this thing was all about solving problems. And as I think about solving problems, you had a project at Pitt that I remember you setting it up. I think you even called me a few times. I think that one was a problem solving one too, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and I was just thinking like quick sidebar into just like, well, and it's relevant, but like just thinking about curiosity and excitement. I think about how you and I are like talking about projects that made this impact on us as teachers.
Right?
But these students probably are also able, even if they don't remember 1 + 1 = 2. I mean, hopefully, they remember some of it, but they remember that. And I think about, when I was in middle school, you and I did a lot of projects, and like I don't remember a lot of my history class or my, you know, whatever, but I remember 7th grade making a sphinx out of clay. I remember
Yeah.
making
Oh God, I forgot about that damn thing.
Yeah, that thing caused some frustration. That booklet that you and I made about Washington State history, like, you helped me, and I was so frustrated because I kept getting it because I wanted it to, like, be a booklet, and I could not get it to be on the same pages, and then there was one with Dr. Cruz, I think, where I think it was him. I think it was Washington State history again, actually, where we, like, had to make a map, like a physical map where it wasn't just like a drawing map, but you had to
Yeah.
have at least like 6 different like geographical types or something. Like I remember those. Those still stick with me an uncomfortable amount of years later.
Yeah. And that's why I think personalizing education, personalizing learning, right?
Yeah.
That's how we remember. So, um, yeah. So, I mean, that one project again that you did there at Pitt, that I remember the one one of the students that you just couldn't get over.
Oh, I still
What
can't
was
get over. So the science project or the science project, the 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 interesting like the project that you're talking about was for a science fiction class, which is why I said science. But it was a science fiction class. Well, the class itself was called Imagining Social Justice. And I taught 2 iterations of it. And the first one was pretty traditionally science fiction focused. And I had some really cool projects. But that was a virtual class, so it was a little different. I didn't get to interact with the students in the same way, right? But in the second iteration of it, I did Afrofuturism, which for anyone who isn't aware is just a kind of offshoot of sci-fi fantasy that focuses on African reclamation of identity, optimism, and thinking about like instead of dystopianism, like thinking about, what does the world look like? What would have the world looked like? What could the world look like if African heritage is kind of celebrated in this world?
Yeah.
It's really cool. Black Panther is a really good example of Afrofuturism, thinking about, how their world is kind of a small element of that was hidden away from us. Um,
Is that,
no
Black Panther? Is that's from that movie you took me to that one time where you got mad at me, right?
well, you talked the entire time and then walked away for an hour. But yeah,
Well, I didn't understand a thing.
was so sweet of
Keep going.
you to attempt, but, yes, it is that. Um, yeah, well, and for you to come in at Infinity War of all movies, where
Ugh,
like nothing makes
I was
sense.
well, I was trying to treat you. Emily came home to babysit me after a surgery, and I was trying to be nice to them, and we went to a movie, and If you know me, you know I don't do movies. Number one,
Unless
they're
it's
too long.
Shawshank Redemption or
Yes,
Mamma
that's
Mia.
the greatest. Yeah, Mamma Mia and Shawshank Redemption are the greatest movies ever made. Anyway, all right. Sorry. Afro-realism.
Futurism.
Futurism.
Realism sounds a little depressing.
Ism. Yeah.
So the second class focused on Afrofuturism, and I had kind of been like, okay, well, what can I do for a final project that like gives them again, I always kind of care about like having a final project that they can be invested in. Like that's kind of my big thing. And so in both classes I had this project where they had to do something that like used at least one of the like kind of concepts that we had discussed in class. And so, they could talk about like, just a variety of ideas. Some people would just write traditional papers, but then other people would do, a bunch of different things. And we always had some sort of showcase where they'd all then get to show their different projects. The one that I'm just obsessed with was, and this is what's extra exciting to me, is this is a pre-dental student who did this. Um, and we were talking, and I always talk with my students about like, well, what kind of things, and I'm always like, we got to go from what you're interested in. What are you interested in? And she's like, well, and it didn't have to be an Afrofuturism project. They just had to use the concept from that class. Like, and so this particular student was like, okay, well, you know, one of my favorite books, which is always a funny thing to me when students say that, and then it's a book that you would never expect. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like a book that they read from a high school class usually, which is really great. Like, unless they're voracious readers, then it could be anything. But like, it's often for students who maybe don't read on their own as much. It's often a book that they read in class, which is, I think, such a amazing thing to remember because so many people are like, ugh, English reading requirements,
Yeah.
but it can make an impact. And this
But
book
it's a thing.
did. Yeah. And it's Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Um,
Wow.
Yeah. And she was like, "Yeah, I just love this book." And she brought it in for me. And she's like, "It's got a really cool cover. And maybe we can like attach it as like an image to a YouTube comment and a podcast comment or something because it's just incredible." I've asked her permission to share it widely before, and she's okay with it. But she was like, "I just love the cover, and I just think I could do something really interesting with it." And she brought in the book, and I was like, "This is your favorite book. You can't just demolish your favorite book," because what she wanted to do was physically manipulate the book.
I've done that. You know that.
I know, yes, and my mother was very upset about it. Um,
Yeah, she was.
I still
But it was amazing.
it's in my bedroom. It's a clock made out of a Nancy Drew book, a classic Nancy Drew book that my mother had a bunch of.
And what was the title?
The Mystery of the Clock, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I made a clock.
Yes.
I thought it made perfect sense.
It's really cool.
Apparently, I was the only one.
I think it's cool. I just, I can imagine that as if I were mom, maybe it'd be upsetting.
She was not pleased with her choice of partners that
Yeah,
day.
yeah. Well, No. Anyways, I was like, maybe you should look for a second copy at a bookstore, like a thrift store or something. And nope, she just used her copy. But it ended up being one of like it is a think about this like once a week. It is the best project, and she really clearly got something out of this project,
Yeah.
something that she cared about. And so she brought in this book, and she was like, I want to do these things that kind of bring this idea about identity, was the kind of concept she wanted to kind of deconstruct and think about. And so, on the cover, she like crossed out brave, and then in big red, but she like crossed it out so many times that it broke open a little
Yeah.
bit. So it's like trying to like, censor, because her project ended up being about censorship and identity. And then from brave, she kind of put an arrow, and then she wrote there is no, and then bravery in red kind of crossed off a little bit, but you could still read it. And then it says when your identity matches everyone else's. she then also, like, literally physically zip tied chunks of the book apart so you can't read them. Physical censorship. And then when we were talking, she was like, "Yeah, I wanna draw on these pages and do, a variety of different censorship type things and then some commentary." And I have them up. That's why I keep looking that way so that I can kind of have a better reminder of what it is. But like, I was, yeah, like 1 or 2 pages. Don't like, cause I'm like, I don't want you to spend your whole finals week working on this project. Well, she apparently spent all night and then 2 days worth or something like working on this because she got so into it. But she has multiple pages where she literally like censored either every single word or most words. This one page that I'm looking at right now, she censored everything except for the letter I.
Huh.
That's it. And she went so far that she even thought about how much she censored. And so some of them you physically cannot read the words under the like block out. This one's in red, but some of them are black. And other ones you can read if you look really closely.
Yeah.
She also there was a page where she had, like, a pop out that I think it said, like, let's see, I don't know if I have it up or not, but it said, like, "Don't open me," and it's like a little window, and you open it,
Yeah.
and then she had drawn so she had oh, wait, I'm gonna tell you. So there's this thing, she had censored most of it, and she had this quote that she had highlighted or she had like written over in red, and it says, "But wouldn't you like to be free to be happy in some other way, in your own way, for example, not in everybody else's way?" And then she had the window below that, and you open it up and there's somebody holding that text up.
Wow.
It's I'm just like, I cannot
Yeah.
tell you. And the student, I think, just to get to the like kind of crux of all of this that I think is just the most interesting of coming back to like why when students do this, when they're invested, why does it matter? Like this student, I'm still in touch with her and like we met like 4 or 5 times after, and funny enough, she was a she did dentist like work in the office that I go to. So I've met her in my dental office. But she's
Yeah.
just like so invested and she brings it up all the time and she just like cared about this despite the fact that she was a dental student,
Yeah.
you know? Or not despite, but
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what? That's to kind of wrap us up a smidge here.
Yeah, sorry.
That's no, don't be sorry. That's the whole reason I think we do projects, right? And I wished I, I don't even wish education was this. I wish the life was this, right? I don't think enough of us, hell, I don't think hardly any of us really do what we're passionate about personally all the time, right?
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I think I was a math teacher and I was personally invested and passionate because I went to it as an older man and realized I loved it. But on top of that, I think now, like, wow, could you imagine if we all were able to do things not just in school, but in our life that we had that much passion about,
Yeah.
you know? And I think you and I miss you teaching because I loved that we talked all the time about your projects. Basically, yeah, basically I had horrible ideas and threw them at you and then you tweaked them to make them usable. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that project that you just described, I remember very vividly too. Um, I know it's funny as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking of all these projects that you did because you ran a lot of them by me.
Yeah.
And all the ones I did. One time I did a project. I actually bought video cameras with my classroom money. We got like $300 a year for God's sake back in the day. And I spent every penny buying these cameras, these video cameras. And I used to send kids to film things about math. right? And I'll never forget one day I set these groups out. I let them pick their group. And I sent them out, and I used to, you're not supposed to do that because they're high school kids and you leave them alone. But I kept them all sort of within sight. Well, all of a sudden I find out there's a fight going on.
No.
And I'm like, what the? Oh my God. I run over there and I see who it is. And I'm literally like, what is wrong with you idiots? You're best friends. And they got in an argument about math and literally got in a fight, a physical fight about math. And I was like, I'm not sure I should be mad about this. I guess we'll call home. And luckily, both their parents knew me.
Yeah.
And both their parents, I remember the time, were like, well, I hope one of them got hurt because they're both idiots. And I remember laughing, going, all right, we're all on the same page
Yeah.
here. But because we were doing a project about math in a math class that nobody liked and nobody wanted to do math, they were so invested. They literally got in an argument about it. So I'm not sure that's the way to end this conversation, but that's how we're going to end it.
Well, how about we end it with the fact that I also have had students who I learned that because they were in a group project, they actually ended up being friends for many years.
Oh, yeah.
Multiple. In my reading poetry class, I have 2
That's awesome.
I can think of. Yeah. So
yeah, because
also
they found out that they had interests
in
that
common.
were alike.
Correct.
That's also right. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, huh, so cool. So cool. Well, thanks for sharing that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I think so. Hey, everybody, as always, at this point, thanks for listening. I appreciate you very much. And if you have questions or comments or want to be part of the show, email me. I have questions 2025@gmail.com, And so as we wrap up, as I said, Emily is going to join me. I don't know. Who knows? This is such a shoestring budget. It's not even funny. Probably every other month. I think I can already tell you the next time Emily joins, we are going to interview somebody. So that will be exciting. We'll take a different tactic.
Oh,
But
and she's a
I think,
firecracker.
oh, wow, we like fireworks.
Yeah.
So, with that, I want to make sure that each and every one of you have a great week. And I hope you find something you're passionate about to learn something new with this week. And we will talk to you then, huh?
Yeah. Thanks for letting me join
Yeah,
as a co-host.
of course. I loved it. I hope everybody loved it as much as I did. You amaze me with your knowledge. And I learned something new about Legos and ethos and Pythagoras
Greek
and
warriors of words.
Greek warriors. Anyway, all right. Peace out, everybody. Hey, we can't do this. P.S.
P.S.
P.S. So, as I've only been to Pittsburgh the one time, but I'll never forget. It was your first time there of moving there. You'd been there to visit to pick the University of Pittsburgh, but you absolutely had to take your mom and I to the nationality rooms at the Cathedral of Learning. So at the University of Pittsburgh, there's this building. I don't even know, for decades and decades, it was the highest, tallest building in the United States
Mhm.
for a long time. And I don't think I know, 100 years ago, this is its 100th anniversary, these nationality rooms, a lady decided that she wanted to, as part of the University of Pittsburgh, she wanted to thank and also put a spotlight on all the ethnic groups in Pittsburgh. So she came up with this idea of the nationality room. And I know, because every time I talk to Emily, I get told something about the nationality rooms. So they live it. Do you have some cool fact about the nationality rooms?
I have too many. I will try to limit my.
Oh, Lord.
I could talk for quite a while. This has been my.
Nope. This is a PS.
Yeah, it's a PS. It's gonna be a longer PS, but not a too long. Um, Maybe a PSS. But my my important thing before I get to my fun fact is that yeah. So I also want to point out Ruth Crawford Mitchell is the founding director, but there have been 3 directors of the nationality and heritage rooms, and they've all been women, which I think is really, really cool. And the current one, Kati Çoman, is of Hungarian descent, I believe. Don't quote me on that. There's some sort of connection there. Um, but she actually was a student who received funding from the nationality and heritage rooms because in addition these classrooms are kind of really fascinating because they're I told you it's going to be more than one fact, sorry, but uh they're interesting because they're active classrooms in addition to being things that get toured, right? And so the committees that helped put these together and who continue to kind of work with these rooms also give out money to students to go travel and have global experiences. And so the current director was a student who got to have that experience, which is cool. My actual fun fact is that all of the rooms are supposed to be, it was determined in 1927 that all of the rooms should be um, created with the kind of theme of a decade or a century or whatever that is pre 87 for 2 reasons. 1787 is when the University of Pittsburgh was founded, or 1787. I don't know if I said that or if I said the wrong date. And it's also when the U.S. Constitution was signed. And so they wanted all of that. However, in I think 1930, I don't remember. I know that it was finished in 1943, but it might have been 1934.
Something.
The French committee that came together.
Those damn French.
You said it, not me. Um, they really felt strongly that the Napoleonic era, which had such a huge impact on French, society and culture, needed to be represented. So they got an exemption. And they also are one of the first, if not the first room who got to kind of choose their spot because they look out on the Heinz Chapel, which is, neo-Gothic architecture and therefore kind of a great representative of Gothic French architecture. So that's my fun fact, is that the French room
That's awesome.
did its thing.
So there you go. When you're picking your next vacation spot, people, and you pick Pittsburgh, go to the Cathedral of Learning at the University of Pittsburgh and tour the nationality rooms. And all but one room, you'll get to go back into history pre-1887. Isn't that awesome?
1787.
Or I messed it up, not you.
Also, PPS, Pitt Day of Giving is on February 24th, and we're featuring the Nationality Council Centennial Fund, which helps students travel. So if you're interested.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm not going to
Awesome.
link to it, but if you're interested, you can look that up and it's there.
Wow.
So,
We've turned into an advertising
sorry.
spectrum. No, it's all good. All right. With that said, everybody, peace, love, R. This has been a production of SMEB LC Enterprises. Please give us a thumbs up, share us with others, and come back next week for another leg of our journey. Thank you for spending some of your valuable time and energy with us today. This is also a great time to reach out to someone in your life and just ask them, how are you doing? Don't wait until next week. And remember, it is always powerful to say, I have questions.